Hi, I'm Victor Vogel. I'm the author of Renaissance Leadership Odyssey. And Renaissance Leadership Odyssey is a book I wrote based on the last 10 years of my life here, working on leadership and why I felt like leadership is not only not moved forward, but it's also regressed. And I wanted to know what was going on, so I spent a lot of time this last 10 years talking to people, looking at research, discussing this, and just working on this area of why leadership has not seemed to be able to move out of the realm of uh, uh, employees looking at leadership in a poor light, employees not satisfied with organizations not satisfied with employees, that continual battle between employees and leadership and organizations. Uh, and the information I derived out of there, I found out that I believe that we have the wrong perception of the leadership's role for going into the next 2 decades, which are going to be very difficult decades to live by because they're going to be fast paced, they're going to require specialized and difficult interactions between organizations, as well as the workforce is changing immensely. Uh, what I've discovered is that we needed to take a look at the current leadership paradigm and change that paradigm. We needed to spend some time, more time than we normally do, identifying, developing, and selecting and placing leadership into positions. We need to be more judicious and more cautious and more dedicated to selecting the right people for leadership roles in all formats of organizations and leaders in all genre. Uh, so what I discovered was that, and from the research, which is mostly qualitative research, but also some literature review, uh, we missed three areas. Over the last 4 or 5 decades, we've been developing leaders. First of all, we've spent very little time helping the leader that we identify as a potential leader to understand themselves and to dig deeper into who they are, sort of a psychological profile, if you will, to see that there is a fit for this person and a leadership role. And so we spend very little time doing that, but there is an organization that does that today, and called Positive Intelligence. And in working with an organization, I would highly recommend the organization put their future leaders, leaders you're thinking about, not even ones you placed into leadership yet, through this program. It runs around $1,000 plus some consulting fees for the consultants who manage it. It's not a very expensive program, considering what you get out of this program. Because I've seen time after time leaders been put into the positions in the wrong place, and they end up having to be terminated because they're not doing the job, or they leave because it's not right, or they leave the organization because it's not right. I spent a lot of time as a consultant coming in and helping organizations change this around. And one of the things that I did is I spent a lot of time helping this person try to understand who they are. And I'm not a psychologist, or I don't have training in that area. Many of the people who are in positive intelligence are specialized in those areas, and it is a very valuable piece of information. It not only helps the leader do the job better, but it also helps them decide whether it is the right job for them. So when you have someone who goes through this and they get a chance to look at themselves, you get a pretty good indication that if you hire them, at least they want the job and they're interested in it, and they fit the job from a personality perspective. So, uh, this is one thing we virtually do not do. Organizations don't spend the time and the money to do this, but they, on the other end, they spend it hiring new people in on a cycle as they leave. So this is one area we missed, and we need to change in the future. The other area we need to work on is the area of emotional intelligence. Uh, Emotional intelligence deals with being able to interface with other people and to be able to identify where you are in your state of emotion and where somebody else is in their state, so that when you connect for whatever that skill is, whether you're doing a performance appraisal, whether you're building a team, whether you're trying to get diverse work group, building a diverse work group and trying to make that all fit together culturally, or whether you're solving a conflict and trying to resolve a conflict resolution. How you approach those things interpersonally and the skill sets of understanding where you are and where they are is a very, very strong tool for getting people to connect with you in a way that they trust you, and that there's concern and caring for the person that you're working with. So emotional intelligence is one of those other areas. Now the third area, and by the way, it was the Daniel Goleman group that I recommend that you go visit. All this will be in the notes when I put these out in various descriptions in various social media areas. The other area that was really lacking, and I was really surprised at this because for many years I was a leader, and I also consulted for about 10 years before I retired. And I used I always found myself having to go in and help people understand how to interpersonally communicate with other people. Now, the interpersonal uh, part of the interpersonal communication is the emotional intelligence aspect, but it's how communication is enhances the capability to help that emotional intelligence. So that's part of what we're doing there. With this program in interpersonal communication. And I was doing that one on one with leaders as I was consulting, and it made their ability to learn leadership skills and to operate as a leader much more easier for them, whatever the situation was they were having to deal with. I had not realized doing that all of those years how much importance how important that was to leaders in terms of their growth and development. After I was out of it, and during this last 10 years or so, I've been researching leadership. I got a chance to look at it in a different light. I wasn't involved in doing it. I was looking at why no one else was doing it. And I found that virtually no one has a program that is gauged specifically for uh, interpersonal communication. So I had to create a, a program of interpersonal communication, and it's based on the things I were doing for the 35 or 40 years I was doing leadership and consulting. It's based on all the things I was teaching these people, and I had to go back and be able to look at those and try to figure out what was it that was making that work. And what really was making it work was the idea that you have to use different communication processes from an interpersonal perspective based on whatever particular leadership skill you were engaged with your employees at the time. And there were a variety of skills that you had to know and that you engaged with on a frequent basis with employees. Things like conflict management or the idea of building team, creating team performance, or perhaps you were having a difficult discussion and you were as a leader, you were trying to help this person work through this issue. There are a variety of situations that leaders deal with, or these skill sets apply, and you don't always use the same, or you shouldn't be using the same communication processes uh, for consistently across all of those different skills. You should learn to be able to adapt those. So that's what this course does. It teaches you the communication processes, the importance they play in terms of interpersonal relationships or the emotional intelligence side of that. So as I was doing this, I realized there wasn't many text out there that from the communication world that talked about this issue, this connectivity between emotional intelligence and the mastery of the communication processes. So I wrote a book that sort of uh, explained how I explained this to people when I was working with them as a consultant. And so it's structured that way so that people can get a feel for how they can connect with people more effectively and be more effective at relating to people and helping them. And so while I was doing that, of course, I'm doing this because I'm thinking, well, I thought all the businesses out there were doing this, and the fact is, I was doing a lot of it, but not a lot of other consultants or coaches or business people had this communication emphasis in their processes. And so I began to find out there was a lot of business out there in the world that didn't know much about the role that communication and particularly interpersonal communication played in their business. How one how many problems it can create. The whole idea of connecting. A lot of what I look at today where people are having problems are based on an interpersonal communication, a lack of that competency, and the inability to effectively communicate with other people. So I wrote a primer, so to speak, that kind of covers what you ought to be thinking about as a leader and provide you enough information to familiarize you with some of the behaviors you should be doing as a business, small business or medium-sized business person. It would apply to a corporation also, but it was really focused on the small business because these people are the people who don't get a chance to go to these courses or to hire consulting firms because they can't afford them or they don't have time or whatever the problem is. So that was it. Then and as the final part of this was the idea that there is one area that virtually we spend virtually no time training people to a large extent. Now, everybody hears about nonverbal communication. They know it's important. They get some courses on it. It's very superficial. You really need, as a leader, to have a really strong grasp on how effective nonverbal communication is. It is about 90% of what people base their understanding of what you said to them is based on your nonverbal behaviors. And if you're unaware of those, you may be sending signals that make what you say in your words incongruent with what a person believes you're saying based on how they're reading your nonverbal cues. Now, the problem is a lot of people are uh, using these nonverbal cues. They recognize them because we're humans, and we use our senses to make sense of the world. So it's a natural state, and we're doing it, but we're not educated about what we're doing and how we're doing it. So all of this is being wrapped up in this interpersonal leadership course. And I have that course available, and I'm going to run it on semester basis. The first semester is starting September 9th this year, and I'll run another one in the spring. And this course is restricted to 6 people. It is a 12-week long course, 2 hours a week, one night a week for 2 hours, and there's a lot of interaction. Like I said, restricted to 6 people. It's team training. It is highly interactive, and it's online, but it's online live. We don't record it. It's like you stepped in the classroom, and we're doing it virtually though. But we're having this team interaction and learning through the team based on exercises you do in between the classes in your work environment or wherever you get an opportunity to practice the various skills you're being taught. And then how those worked or didn't work, the struggle you had at implementing that. So over the course of 12 weeks, you not only learn the communication concepts, but you learn how to make them work in your environment. And it will enhance immensely leaders' ability to cope with this new role that we're going to have them play, because you are literally going to have to master to a high proficiency or performance, understanding who you are. So when you make those connections, you can make them correctly and appropriately using emotional intelligence and solid communication processes to enhance those interactions. If you do these three things, then along with the skills training you been getting over the last 4 or 5 decades, you can in fact begin to understand your real role as a leader. And that role is going to have to change from one of very task and functionally oriented activity. If you ask what is leadership for most people today, they tell you it's getting things done through other people. The reality is, it is that, but it is also a wider responsibility of creating a community, and not just a community within your own functional silo area, but a community across the whole organization. So everybody understands and relates to everybody else in the organization. That's a large change from what we're expecting out of leaders right now. And it will require this in depth understanding of you as a leader, how to interact with your people, and how to do that through the only source that we have as humans to do it, and that's communication. And we have a lot of barriers getting in our way, including things like social media and remote work and those kinds of things, that we have to learn how to overcome those barriers so we have that same sense of positive interaction that makes people feel good about going to work every day. The employer feels the need and the desire to help and value their employee because they're connecting with them more effectively. They're investing in them as the employee is also investing in the company. If we don't do that, we're going to find ourselves isolating more and more, and because technology tends to drive us that way. So I am pushing from the other side, saying we need to keep this connectivity and find ways in the future to help technology help us communicate more effectively in all of these areas that we're talking about. Now, so I am available to help people work through this if anybody is interested. If you're just interested in that communication side of things, or if you want to take all of those component pieces I talked about: positive intelligence, emotional intelligence, and communication, and just take them separately or whatever. You can take those courses separately. You can take this course separately. I encourage you to take all three if you're going to be a leader. But if there, for some reason, this is appealing to you from a communication side, there's ways we can do this course so that you can take it in and learn all that you need to know. If you can't afford to take it, or you just don't want to take the time to take it or whatever, but you want the information, all of this information, all these books, all these sources of information, all aimed at this interpersonal communication leadership course workbook, which is the textbook for the course, is on my website, and they're for sale. And I put them on my website because I I can sell these at a price that just about anybody can afford. In fact, they're all on there, I think, for $9. So, or $9.99 or something like that. If these, I'm going to also put them on Amazon over the next month or so, and there's no way that these books will go out on Amazon for anything less between $15 and $30. So, uh, it's that's what publishers do to literature. So what we've been able to do with self-publishing is self-publish this book. I have the link to the book. So, for example, if you bought the book on nonverbal communication, if that's interesting to you, you bought this book. What happens is you purchase that on my website through my platform. I happen to use Buy Me a Coffee, so you'll be directed there. You'll purchase it there. You will be given the link to that book. It's an open live link. So you can put it on your phone and use it anytime you want to refresh your memory about anything. It's like having a reference library. Uh, the difference between that and Audible is Audible puts a lot of restrictions on it. It has a lot of features that I don't have with that link, but it puts a lot of restrictions on it. And I tried to set this up so that if you purchase this book, you get a live link. In other words, uh, you could take that and put it on your computer. You could put it on your phone. You can. In fact, if you decide you go through this and you think this is cool, and you think maybe somebody else in your family or your friend or maybe an associate or even your boss might be interested in this, you can give him that link. Okay, you paid for that book. It's kind of like if you bought a hard copy book, you read the book and it was really good, and you said, "Here, take this, go read it. I think you'll like it." That's what we used to be able to do when we bought hard copy books. Now you can do that with this. That's why I set it up on the program, and that's why I also can sell it for less because everything is designed and done by me, and it's sold through my platform. Now, the other side of that also is that you have the availability um, I have the availability, and we'll be putting these all together into a four book uh, 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 presentation where you can buy all four books for even a further discounted rate. So that you have them all in your library, your digital library there, because you can always go back and touch base with them at any point in time. If there's a chapter there that it has to do with something you're doing in the next day or so with an employee, you can kind of review and refresh your mind and plan it and all that, which is what I encourage when you're trying to deal with other people in a communication process. So, just wanted you to know that's all available out there. If you want, there's all kinds of ways to do this course, this uh, communication course. I can offer it and people can sign up for it, and we can have a semester of everybody learning. You might be a small business or a medium-sized business, and you might say, "Hey, I got, you know, 5 or 6 leaders out there. I'd like them all to take this course." You can do that. The flexibility I have with it is to do it where it fits the participants. So they don't necessarily have to miss work to take this course. They don't have to fly anywhere or go anywhere or spend time away from their family to take the course. Uh, so I have that flexibility. I have the flexibility if you're an HR training person and you really like this idea and we talk about it and you'd say, yeah, I think I'd like to put this out in a company, but you can have me teach it for you, and or a lot of times what I would like to do, and as I look at this in the future, is I'd like to co-instruct it with those people, so you get to know it over time, and you can just pick it up and go with it from there on out. Um, so uh, that and then it becomes yours, and I'm not. I've already decided once you put people through this fee structure and everything, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna I'm gonna let the company just have the program because they paid for it. My objective here is to get this information out and be helpful to people. It's not to build a large business off of it. I'm coming at the end of my retirement. I probably don't want to get engaged in that anyway, but I'm really excited about getting all this information out there to people. I don't want to spend marketing money doing it. So, uh, in fact, for the first few that we do, if you live anywhere near Oklahoma City, I operate out of Yukon, Oklahoma. I'd love to be able to do them locally for a while, but that don't have to be. I can do this for anybody who can understand English, any country you're in, any state you're in. Uh, this is good for a variety of industries of just about any size organization. You're going to take things away from this program that you can apply to your family, to your spouse, to your friends, just anybody you're trying to develop a realistic connection with that's important to you. Uh, this is going to be a good course for you to take. Okay, so this is a little longer than I intended to be to tell you this, but I wanted you to have the genesis of where it was coming from. I wanted you to have a feel for what it took to put all this together because it's just not. I just really haven't found it in this form, this comprehensive form, anywhere else in any other development programs. So if you're interested, contact me. If you know somebody else that's interested, pass this link on to them, have them call me. You can go on my website and schedule a video conference with me, and we can talk about it. I love talking about leadership with other people anyway. Those are free calls. I don't charge for those calls. So um, as you can tell, I haven't really formulated a massive approach business strategy that's kind of like that. I like the idea of being flexible and letting people help us decide how we want to get this done in a way that's really, really helpful to leaders and really helpful to people in general to start unifying and connecting people again. Something I had done all my professional career and I enjoyed it and it worked. I just didn't realize how many people have never been taught how to communicate effectively. We don't teach it in high school and we don't teach it in college. You can get out of college with a PhD and not understand a lot of this information. I worked with a lot of PhDs to help them work through these issues to have a better project team or a better department or whatever it was. Okay, thanks for listening to this. If you know if somebody is interested, please let them know. The books are worth worth your reading. They're really inexpensive for what you're going to get out of them. I hope you find them useful. Thanks for paying attention to me. Have a good day.